Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Rogue Agent Answers. My name is the Rogue Agent. Some people call me David Lewis, and every week I answer one of the many life insurance related questions that I've received from clients, from email subscribers on the daily email list, questions floated to me from across the interwebs, in the comments sections, which I know you're not supposed to read, or just interactions that I've had with people in real life over the past 20 years, which is a long time. And some of these questions I just scribbled down on scrap pieces of paper. Some of these are stuff I've written down on my phone. Some of it is on Post-it notes scattered all over the office. And every week I answer one of those questions. So if you'd like to ask your question, drop them in the comments section or join my email list for more life insurance tips and advice at Monegenics.com. Monegenics.com. And now for this week's question.
Okay, this is an older one. It looks like it may be a little bit dated, but I'll try to answer it in the current context of when this is being recorded. The question is, should I buy I-bonds or an annuity? I've been reading a lot about I-bonds, and the rate looks incredible. Is this for real? How does this compare to insurance products? I think this was back during a time when I-bonds were paying like 9% or over 9%. But people generally are asking about, when they do ask this question, it's usually about bonds or just like a bond fund. So ultimately, the decision is yours to make, and I don't give investment advice, so this is not financial advice at all. However, I can give you some information. So I-bonds and bonds in general are savings bonds, whatever kind of savings bonds you're looking at. Or I-bonds specifically are a type of savings bonds with an adjustable rate that's pegged to the government's measure of what they call price inflation, or they just call it inflation, but you think of it as price inflation. That price inflation number, again, which everyone basically just calls inflation, is when it's high, and for a while it was quite high. It makes the bonds look very attractive. So some people believe that inflation, when it happens, is transient and won't last. Others believe it's going to be persistently high inflation, and there's a lot of concern right now, as of this recording, with the tariff situation with President Trump, and is back and forth. Are we having tariffs? Are we not having tariffs? How high are they going to be? On what countries? And what's the rates? And so on. So there's some concern about prices rising and on certain products, certain goods and services. And a lot of the narrative is driven by the idea that the Federal Reserve is controlling interest rates. Which is a whole other discussion for another time, maybe. So either way, again, this question was back during a time when the fixed or base rate of I-bonds was essentially 0% and had an inflation-adjusted rate of 9.6%. And then rolling forward the next month, I think this was back in October, and then November's rate dropped to 6.89%. So it was still good, but it shows, it was just showing how quickly the price inflation was falling at that time, and how quickly those numbers can change from one month to the next. So, and that trend continues as long as interest rates keep rising and then putting downward pressure on those inflation numbers. So, another thing that people ask about is TIPS, which is Treasury Inflation Protected Bonds, or securities rather, but they're similar enough that it's worth a mention. So while I-bonds adjust the interest rate based on price inflation, TIPS adjust the value of the bond itself based on inflation. So as inflation falls, the value of the bond goes down. So if we go into deflation, if we enter into a deflationary period, then the value can drop into negative territory, which will cause you to lose money. So tips could be, you could be down, 6, 7, 8% in a year, and it depends on where inflation is headed. So with an I bond, you're not really losing principal. Tips can lose principal value, and I think that's kind of the difference there. So at the same time, annuity rates, especially today, especially in today's environment, annuity rates are climbing. So minimum rates, you can see annuity rates in the 5% plus range, go 5-6%, depends on what kind of annuity you're looking at. On the lower end, 3 to 5%. So with indexed annuity rates from very clean, straightforward companies that sell very clean products, meaning there's not a lot of complication. It's a very straightforward product. The guaranteed floors, and the lowest I've seen is 3%, 4%, and you can earn 7-8%. As interest rates rise, the annuity rates are going to rise also. So the same is true for whole life insurance. So whole life insurance returns are not pegged to new money rates. So the dividend rates rise a lot slower. So with a lot of the carriers have guaranteed rates, and some of them have guaranteed rates still as low as 2%. Some of them have 3%, 3.5%. On the guaranteed side, and even though that seems low in today's interest rate environment, the upside to that is that because of the dividend component, the dividend payments are actually much, much higher. So, and they're rising. So you can see rates on whole life insurance where the total return on cash values is 4 or 5%, and it's moving upwards. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to think, like, if this trend continues, and this is an if, just so I can clarify, this is if. It doesn't mean that this is going to. It just means if we see the trend continue, you should expect to see rates continue to go up. We might see, net return on cash values, go to 5, 5.5, 6%. I've seen it before in illustrations and in policies where rates went north of that. So it can happen. It doesn't mean that it will happen. It just means as the rates continue to rise, returns on whole life insurance rise also. So bottom line is that when you see interest rates rise, especially long rates, it's usually not that great of a time for inflation-adjusted products, and vice versa. So that would be, rates rise and you see interest rate-sensitive products start to do better, then that's headwinds for inflation-adjusted securities, and then and tailwinds for interest rate driven products. It doesn't mean that you should buy one versus the other. It does mean that, if you're considering one or the other, that give it some serious thought before dumping money into investments one way or another. And if you are looking for insurance products for insurance protection, then that's a totally different story. So that's because insurance is not an investment. It's not, you say, well, it has investment like returns sometimes, but it's not just that, right? So insurance has multiple different components to it. And if the only thing that you are looking for is rate of return, maybe skip the insurance. But if what you want is protection, in other words, you want to protect your money, and you want to protect against other downside financial risks, then you consider insurance, either annuities or life insurance.
Okay, that's it for this week's question. If you'd like to add your question to the list, just drop them in the comment section or send me an email. And if you want more life insurance tips and advice, just head on over to monogenics.com. monegeniix.com and sign up for my daily email list.